pretty busy, Scott. Um, you're gonna call me today because we have a property to underwrite that I finished underwriting just now, and we're gonna get this thing under contract soon. So
All right.
the Phoenix has risen, and I have another property that I'm gonna work on tonight, and
Great.
another one that I'm gonna call today to get numbers from. Actually, two, and I'm pretty freaking busy all of a sudden. So
Good.
yeah, let's make some magic today.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, definitely. I got time today. I'll definitely give you a call.
So is that 3 deals?
One, two, yeah, two I had to underwrite and then two potentials. So
So possibly 4.
Nice.
yeah,
That's a great Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
Joe, it just all of a sudden fall in my lap. I'm like, I mean, I know it happened, but it's like, oh my God.
And now all of a sudden you're super, super busy.
Yeah, Joe, and I'll tell Scott about it later. But this residential thing, I'm trying to do it, but all of a sudden storage just kind of exploded in a sense. So it's like I'm working on it, but I try to balance these things right now. So Joe, I'm not ignoring anyone or you. Just I gotta figure this out.
Listen, nobody feels sorry for you. You have 4 potential fantastic deals going on. But don't ask us to feel sorry for you because it's just not happening, Gabe. Okay?
I
Not
know.
happening. You're not one tear, not even a frown. I'm happy for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Feast or famine, buddy. That's how it works.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a button on the homepage now for people to one click to join. So if they go to FFREIA.com, there's a big, huge red button on the right-hand side.
Yeah, had a couple people trying to join in, and they were having issues, but a few people. It's
Yeah.
all right.
It's because everybody waits to the last minute to do everything. It's okay.
They're just like me. Uh-huh. And I don't know why, but I've been hugely successful at it. So if I came on things early, heck, I'd probably be even more successful, right? So there you go. Mm-hmm.
All right, we're recording it. It'll be up on YouTube once it's done. So
okay, cool. Yeah, I did have a couple people that can't make it. Somebody said he'd pay he should really be paying $1,000 per meeting that he come to. And I said, you're way undervaluing this meeting if you're putting $1,000 price tag on it. So we got Imran on here. That's awesome. Thanks. Welcome, Imran. I don't know if you can talk or not, but I see you there. Glad you could join us. And then Steve Young. Steve and his lovely wife Mandy. I've had a chance to meet up with them a few times. I come to Rochester. There he is. Hey, bud. How you doing?
He's muted.
So,
hey, Scott. How's it going?
Good. How you doing, buddy?
Pretty good, man.
Good. Look at your hair or lack thereof.
Yeah, lack thereof.
Look at that, man.
It's my summer due.
There you go. Nice. And we have the Rochester legend, Barrington Nelson, on with us too. Welcome, Barrington. How you doing, bud?
Good. Hello, everyone. Good morning.
Morning, Barrington.
Good.
Man the myth.
Right. Mm-hmm. Diane, welcome. Mike DeMaria, welcome. All right. Aiden. Hey, Aiden, how we doing today? All right. So I think what's going to happen, I'm just going to check once more quick. I want to. We'll probably have a couple other late entries, but we're going to go ahead and get this started. It is 7:04, and glad everybody could join us. This is okay. There we go. Good. We're part of FFREIA, Freedom First Real Estate Investors Association. The cool thing about that is we're part of National REIA. And the nice thing about that is you can go when you're traveling. You can go to different locations and find out if they have a REIA group, which most cities do, and you can participate in the meetings. There's actually one coming up in Denver that I'll be attending. Look forward to that. But what we do is we give information. The quick disclaimer is, and you should have seen it when you logged in, is we do not offer financial or legal advice. We just give opinions on things that worked for us. Your situation may be different. So before you act on anything that we're doing, make sure you consult they say a competent person, your accountant or your attorney. But once again, thanks everybody for joining. We're the DealMasters group. We're a little spin-off from the FFREIA in Rochester. What we do is we talk about other ways to make money in real estate other than landlording. There's a landlording group that meets every 2 weeks or 2 times a month, I'll say.
Not anymore.
Or that might be one time.
It's just one now, in person.
Okay, one time a month in person. And neat thing with this is we do a Zoom the first Thursday of every month. And the third Thursday of every month, we have a live meeting. And I'll let Joe talk a little bit about that. This month's topic, we decided to come up with monthly topics. And this month's topic is we're talking about flipping. And what we like to do on the first Thursday of the month on the Zoom is bring in somebody nationally who has experience outside of Rochester. Because everybody has different ideas. I know we get together quite often, and when you can bring in somebody from the outside, they can look at it from a different perspective and also tell us from a different perspective. And before I introduce my good friend Bobby Essick, Joe, do you have any announcements you want to make? Or Andy?
Well, I know we're going to be having Ashley coming in from Bigger Pockets next Thursday. And Dee was just on talking about make sure everyone gets pre-registered for that. That's going to be a huge event. I know they're opening up the ballroom for that. And that's going to be next Thursday at Eagle Vale. I know typically we start around 5:30ish, and then it goes till whenever. I don't know how long. Actually, Andy, do you know what time Ashley is speaking, or is it still the same format?
Same format. She'll. I don't know if she's going to get what time she's supposed to get there. She lives in Buffalo. Well, outside of Buffalo in the sticks. So it's not like it's a crazy long drive for her. Yeah. She's just got to leave the cow farm and show up. So I'm assuming she'll be there around 6:30, but she's going to speak from like 7 to 8. No idea if she's doing book signings or anything, because I know she's written a couple of different books and all of that. I'm not sure what her actual game plan is once she gets here. But she's there to network, and she's going to talk about getting your first rental in 90 days and her program. That's her book she wrote. So she's going to talk a little bit about that. So it's a good one for newbies, but a chance to network with somebody with a national stage that isn't, involved in FFREIA on a regular basis. So
yeah, so that'll be great. I know typically there's 80 to 100 people there. I know they're going to be way more than that just for that.
Yeah, we need the reservations so we can make sure, number one, we have enough tables set, and number two, make sure there's going to be enough food, enough pizza and salad and drinks and whatever. So, because we've got both halves of the room open, so we're doubling the size of the space just for this meeting.
Yeah. So those of you who don't know, go to FFREIA.com, FFREIA.com, get registered. You'll see that event. And even just besides that, the networking is just crazy there. It's a crazy amount of networking that goes on there, which is extremely valuable. So definitely that. And then I think that's pretty much about it. Anything we missed?
I don't think so. Just online, just so far, it looks like we're going to hit about 120 to 130 people right now.
It's going to be way more than that.
And we usually only set tables for 100, even because most of, we always get the 30 people that stand outside and drink and talk and don't want to sit down for the meeting. I think for this one, we're going to have every seat occupied. So yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Okay. Perfect. All right.
That's next Thursday at Eagle Vale. What time should people start arriving?
Networking starts at 5:30. Cash bar. So cash meaning credit card, cash, whatever, not actual cash.
All right. Networking starts 5:30, and then the presentation programs start what time? 7 o'clock?
That is
Yep.
correct, sir.
Cool. All right, good. Good. All right. Well, today, we're lucky enough to have my good friend Bobby Essick on with us. He and I have known each other, I think, for about 4 years now. And we've been in a few masterminds together. We're both part of the Storage Rebellion. I think most everybody on here knows about. And we do storage together. We actually have done a couple deals together. But more importantly, we're here to talk about today's topic. It's Flip That House. And Bobby, we're lucky enough with him that he lives in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Has a family there. He and his lovely wife, Christy. I've had a chance to meet with both of them. And he has flipped over 55 houses. And we're talking with him yesterday, Joe and I, and the Baton Rouge, Louisiana market is similar to Rochester. It's not crazy like Denver. I'm out here in Denver. My daughter's thinking about buying a house, and the prices here are just unbelievable. They're like California prices. We were looking at houses, 1,500 square feet, and they're like $800,000 for a house that in Rochester would probably be about $150,000. It's just crazy here. So therefore now she's looking into 4 families. She's looking at duplexes and 4 families, but the market here is crazy. But Baton Rouge sounds a lot like Rochester. You have your houses on, in the harder parts of the city, we'll say, in Baton Rouge, similar to like an Avenue D in Rochester. Everybody knows that. They can reference that. So he's flipped houses in those markets, and then he's also flipped houses, $500,000 houses. Like I said, he's done over 55. He has a background. He's going to talk a little bit about how he got into this business, and we're just going to have him talk. On top of being, Bobby's a great guy. Easy to carry on a conversation with him. He's a mentor of mine. But most importantly, he's a spiritual mentor of mine. I know we don't get into religion and politics a lot on this, and that's okay. But Bobby is a spiritual mentor of mine. He is very faith-based. And the great thing about talking with Bobby is he's very open and very knowledgeable across the spectrum on that. And he can carry on a great conversation. I would say no matter what your religious belief is, if you ever had questions, he's like my go-to guy on that. And I do appreciate that about Bobby. But other than that, I'm going to let Bobby introduce himself, talk a little bit about fix and flips, what he's done, what's worked for him, how possibly he finds his deals, and a little bit about what his background is too, Bobby. So go ahead, take it away, Bobby. Appreciate you coming on today.
Yeah, thanks so much, Scott. Yeah, great to be here, guys. It's really an honor. I haven't been on many platforms where I get to share my experience, so this is good. So yeah, I started in 2018, so it's been about 6 years or so. And before that, I did a number of different things. I had a career path that was like a yo-yo. I did all kind of things, and so I came to, and I don't know where you guys are at in life, but I came to my 40s, and I had no retirement, which was okay, but I was thinking about what I was going to do, as I got older, because I was in a career that was very physical. So sandblasting and painting in South Louisiana, South Texas, really hot, really, rough environments, very physical, heavy equipment. And I was doing that. I was working for a good friend of mine, and he took care of me. He paid me like I was one of his sons, like an owner. And so I was compensated well, but just physically, and one day I looked to my side, I was thinking, what's the next step in the company? And it's just the 4 of us. It's me and his 2 sons and him. And I look to my left and I see his sons, and I look to my right and I see him, and he's 60 years old, and he's still physically doing the work. And so I knew that there wasn't a way for me to to step out of that role, and when jobs would get big, I would, move up and I would be a superintendent on a big job and we'd have a lot of help. But when things were slow, I was the one sandblasting and painting. So, I started thinking about, what the next step was. Maybe, honestly, like I know this, we're talking about flipping, but my first thought was, hey, maybe I could buy, a rental and, for the next 10 years, buy one rental a year. I'm sure many people have had that thought as well, buy one rental a year for the next 10 years. Over the, following 10, start paying them off. And by the time I'm 50, I'll have some cash flow. And so that was my thought. And then I took a turn at the job where I physically got hurt. Nothing major, but just where, the age was catching up and I started getting pains in the arm and couldn't continue to hold, the pressure of the hose. And so, I'm like, well, I wanted to do real estate maybe for a quasi retirement. But how could I make this something that I did full time? Maybe change careers, And so, I went ahead and did that. And I started looking into, maybe I could be a realtor. Maybe I could, flip a house. I had a few different ideas. So I reached out to some realtor friends and they were really quick to discourage me from becoming a realtor. They told me how terrible of an idea it was and how hard it was and how, it's going to take 6 months to do your first deal and all that. I'm like, okay. I said, well, maybe I'll flip a house. I'm sure y'all seen the same shows I've seen. How hard could it be? So I wanted to flip a house. So I start reaching out to those realtors and I'm like, hey, I'd love to find a deal. I gave them my criteria, what I was looking for. And they started sending me stuff. And I don't know if y'all had that experience, but there was no deals. They were not sending me deals. And I'm like, well, if I'm going to come across a deal that I can flip, I'm gonna have to find it myself. And I didn't know anything about, I knew nothing about that. So I just started researching and I came across people talking about wholesaling and doing different things like that. So I went down that rabbit hole and I had grand plans. I had ideas that I was going to, wholesale 100 houses a year. Because that's what I was seeing. I started watching, the podcasts and YouTube videos, and all these guys are doing 100 deals a year. So I thought, hey, that sounds like a great idea. So I hired a coach. I started sending mail. I didn't know anything what I was doing. I had no money, so I had no savings. I had no retirement, and I had no job at this point. So I had credit cards. I had, I owned my cars cash, and I had pretty good equity in my home at that point in time, but no liquid savings. So we started selling stuff. We had a motorhome. We sold our motorhome. We had a boat. We sold the boat. I sold my truck. And I did a home equity line of credit on my home for $100,000. And I went about 6 months into, this coaching program and sending mail, and started getting a few leads coming in. And what I found was just a lack of knowledge in myself. And I came across what was potentially 1 or 2 deals in that 6 months. And I had an inability to commit, because I didn't have the money. And I didn't understand wholesaling totally. I didn't know that I could find, a buyer. Didn't know that there would be somebody else that would take my place. And so I literally couldn't make an offer. I couldn't in good conscience tell somebody, hey, I'll buy your house cash, because I had no idea how to do that. And so, at this point, I ended up taking a turn, and some of you may have heard of a company called HomeVestors, but I had a good friend in the market that was a HomeVestors franchisee, and I thought it was something that you had to do in a different area. But he explained to me, like, if I was to be a HomeVestors franchisee and I bought a house on their numbers, that they would fund the deal. And I was like, well, that makes sense. So I went ahead and did that. And I was, within the first 3 months, we had done 5 deals. So that started in I believe it was October of 2018 is when that started. So 6 months before that, I had done some coaching. I had sent a lot of mail. I started with Homevestors and same leads. I mean, there was nothing unique about what they did other than I just had I felt like I had somebody that would fund the deal. And the funny thing is that I never used them to fund a deal. So it was we talk about limiting beliefs and just, not having knowledge and things like that. And that was the case for me at that point in time. I'm no longer with Homevestors. I left them about 3 years ago, but it was a good start for me. And so I did 5 deals in the first 3 months, and I thought, like, this is an amazing business. Like, it was crazy. I wholesaled all of them. I didn't buy any of them. And then January came along and it was crickets, and February was crickets. And I was like, okay, well, now what? Like, what's going to happen now? And so this is where the transition came for me to flipping, because I shared with you in the very beginning, I had these grand ideas of, wholesaling 100 houses a year. And what I found was in my market, it just wasn't that we don't have that much volume, there might be 100 houses a year total that sell for cash in the greater Baton Rouge area. So, for me to get every one of them is very unlikely. And what I ended up finding was that about 15 deals a year is what, my marketing efforts was able to do. And we did direct mail and, pay-per-click, and I'm sure we had some Facebook ads out there as well. And we would spend anywhere, when I first started, I spent $4,000 a month in marketing. And by the time I was coming to the end, I was spending $16,000 a month in marketing, and no change in how many deals I did. So, I did about 15 deals the first year, and I did about 15 deals the last year. So, not sure, leads slowed down, didn't have as many leads. But anyway, that's how I started. And I came to the point when I realized, like, I'm not going to get the amount of volume as I thought I would. I decided to, what's the next thing I could do to make more money, was to flip a house. And to go back, one lesson I learned really early, it was a great lesson. It hurt, but it was a great lesson. I had come across a guy, and I wholesaled a house to him. And it was a nice house, nice area. I think I wholesaled it to him for, it was like, I wholesaled it to him for right at 40,000. And he was a contractor. His partner was a realtor, and they were going to flip the house. And it was in an area, this is before I had done any flips or any wholesales. I don't know if y'all are familiar with, if you can buy a house and then immediately list it on the MLS, do a clean out or something like that, or you could do a full flip, or you could just sell it to an investor before you ever buy it and wholesale it. But so this one I wholesaled to him. He about 3 months later, I drove by the house and I saw a for sale sign in front of it, and nothing was done to it. So I called him up and I'm like, hey, what's going on with this house? I thought y'all were going to flip it. He said we were, but we got we're still tied up. Our money's still tied up in the last flip. It hadn't sold yet, and so we're just going to sell this one. So I kept following up, and he sold that house for like $20,000 or $30,000 more than I sold it to him for, and he sold it on the MLS. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, that was like, I left 20 grand on the table. Like, that was crazy. I did okay on that deal. I made like $12,000. But he made 20 or 30 on top of that. And so that was a light bulb moment for me. When I realized that, if I had the access, if I had the ability to close on the house and then relist it, then, there was a potential to get a different buyer. And so, so that was an eye opener, but we began flipping. And from that point forward, I would say it was about a third a third, and a third. We would wholesale, one, we would wholesale one, and we would flip one. So I didn't flip every house that we did, but I didn't touch every house that we transacted, but about a third of them is what I would do as a flip. So we might do 6 flips a year is what we ended up doing. And that's still what I'm doing today, is about 6 flips a year. And after I left Homevestors, I quit marketing, and I ended up having quite a few houses to continue flipping at that point. And I've just continued to, just work with other wholesalers and realtors and continue to buy. So we're still buying about 6 houses a year and flipping them at this point in time. Not wholesaling or wholesaling anymore in my direct market. I do partner in a second market with my brother, and in his market we do market, we wholesale, and we wholesale and we flip in his market as well. So that kind of brings you up to speed of where I'm at and what I've been doing. And so if anybody's got any questions or anything further you think I should go into, Scott or Joe?
Well, I have a really couple of quick questions here. Your brother that you do the other market, is that also in Louisiana, or is that in a different state? Or is
different state. Yeah, different state.
What state is that?
Mississippi.
Mississippi. So you guys divide and conquer.
Yeah.
All right. I know, just to start off some of the questions, every single time, especially when people get involved in flipping, it sounds to me, I don't know if that's true or not, but for you, it was, I assume you had help, or how, because a lot of the people are having problems getting started with the, with basically having the wherewithal to be able to start to do the flips, or they'll be like, I'm just going to do the flips. And they're like, okay, now what? I don't have a contractor. I don't have this. I don't have that. And then they start calling people like myself and saying, hey, Joe, can you recommend your contractors? And I'm like, no, because contractors are busy. But how did you get around all? What did you do for all that? Because a lot of people are like, yeah, I want to get into flipping, but they don't realize what happens. That's just the beginning.
Yeah. Well, I know you don't know this guy, but I'm going to shout him out anyway. He was a mentor of mine in the beginning. Homevestors guy. He's still with Homevestors today. His name's Robert Leonard. He was in the Baton Rouge market. Now he's in the Lafayette market, but he really he took me under his wing. He literally just showed me everything. He opened everything up to me, and he gave me his name to this contractor that he used. It was very, like, he helped me with, how to even talk to a seller, like just basic things. The process of flipping, like he walked me through all of that stuff. So I really had a mentor in my market, that was, he's not, the way Homevestors is, we're not competing over the same leads. So we basically are sharing leads. The leads get divided up. And so he was just totally open and helpful, and still is to this day. So we still do deals together, him and I. So I had that on the front end. I was introduced to my contractor. I still use the same guy today. So I've heard a lot of contractor struggles, and I just haven't had them. And I have used other contractors other than him, and with those guys, it's just really good communication. Just talking to people, letting them know exactly what you're wanting. And I had a level of experience. I was not a contractor of any sorts, but just common knowledge. I had knowledge in as an industrial contractor in the paint and sandblasting business. So I was comfortable around all the different trades. I mean, we were around electricians and welders and construction guys, and so I was comfortable with all that. So I had no barrier, and knowledge to know, if somebody was not doing a good job, I could see that. So.
All right. By the way, don't be shy, people. Ask questions here. I know Scott will call on people.
Yeah,
Hey, Bobby, sorry, Scott.
no, go right ahead.
Thanks a lot for the information. When you were flipping, were you concentrating on single family homes? Did you ever flip any multifamily properties or?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I focused on whatever was a good deal. So leads would come in, and if it was a good deal, then we would do something with it. And so we would have duplexes and fourplexes. I never had anything bigger than that. I have flipped a duplex. I have flipped a fourplex before. Initially, I flipped them to keep them as rentals because when I first started, my goal, I still was to have a bunch of rentals. And so I was trying to have rentals. I had about 14 doors at one point, and then ended up selling all of them. But yeah, so we flipped a duplex, we flipped a fourplex. I rented them out for about a year, and then I ended up selling those to my contractor, and we did really well on those flips.
Okay, great. Do you plan on buying any more rentals to buy and hold?
No, I don't.
Why, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm not a good landlord.
Mhm.
The operation side of it, it's not something that I enjoyed, and I never had enough of them to have like really good management. And so for me it was like going through a slog. I mean, it's something I really didn't enjoy. And so I'll just share with you what happened to me. And I know like, a landlord is going to have a different take on this, but what ended up happening to me is I looked at the rentals. I had 14 doors, so I had rentals going on. And when I looked at what they made on a monthly basis, and then I did math. So my math is different than a lot of people's math. My math was, what profit am I leaving? Because I had no money in the deal. So I had zero, like you could look at it as an infinite return. So, oh yeah, it's a great investment, right? I don't have any money in the deal. I've refinanced it. I got all my money out. And now it's renting, and I'm making, $200 or $250 or $300 a month on this rental. But what I did was, instead of looking at it like, my return on that investment, what I did was I looked at it, my return off of what my profit would have been had I sold the property. And when I did that number, if I sold the property, I had 11 to 15 years worth of income. And I said, this is, for me, it was just absolutely dumb to continue doing that. And, I'm trying to keep my position. I was trying to keep all of these rentals, and in the business I was in, it was cannibalizing the flip business because I'm trying to keep these rentals. And so I'm not making the profit on the flip. I'm still spending the money on marketing. So like my household is living on a very low income. Like we lived really lean I lived lean for a long, long time, but we lived lean for that 3 years for sure. And while I'm trying to keep all these rentals, and I finally, just decided like, just sell them. And so what happened to me was like, it might have been like if I remember correctly, it was like a 7% rate of return. And I'm like, this is dumb for me to like, it was a 7% rate of return off of what my profit would have been. So let's say I would have made 40,000 on the flip. I'm only making 7% on that income. And I'm like, I could invest with a syndicator and make 15%. I'm like, it was just and I'm having to deal with the tenants and put up with doing the repairs. And when I would do a rental, it was a totally renovated house.
Yeah.
Really nice. We did really nice repairs. And so you go back 2 months later when somebody quit paying rent, and you see holes in the walls, and it was something like, I don't want to fix it again. I want to fix it once. And that's when I realized like I'm a flipper. I like to flip. I don't want to hold, whether it's a car, a motorhome, a boat. I want to buy it. I want to fix it, and I want to sell it. I don't want to fix it again. And so I knew that about myself in the car business. But I found that about myself in the single family or multifamily house business as well. I much prefer to make the flip, take the flip, and then invest the money. I have money to invest. I'm not living so lean. I actually have cash that I can invest. So, and that's what I did when I left Homevestors. I had about 14 doors at the time. We started selling all those doors, and I still had flips to complete and sell. And at that point, I sold everything that I could sell, and I went into storage, and I started buying storage facilities.
Okay, you're in storage now. Okay.
Yeah, with the cash, and I still flip. And so,
Okay.
to kind of like bring it full circle, 3 years ago, when I started storage, I was leaving single family. And for me, I had to completely disconnect from single family mentally, from the acquisitions of single family, in order to like go all in on storage. And at that point, selling those houses that I had and still continuing to flip the ones that were left over, I had the cash to go ahead and just sever the single family acquisition business. And so that's what I did. And then I invested. The idea at that time was to go all in on storage and not do single family anymore. That was my thought, my plan. And so I'm 3 years into that plan, and about a year and a half ago, I realized I love flipping. There's nothing wrong with continuing that flip business. The flip business is what's earning the income that's allowing me to invest in the storage. And so I had a change, and Scott was with me through a lot of this, through one of the masterminds we were in together. Was a really intimate mastermind. And so I went through that transition to where I was all in on storage. And then I realized, well, why did you cut off this other? And I know why I cut it off at the time. It was so that I could really immerse and learn. I'm kind of a one-track mind guy, and so I really needed to learn storage. But after a year and a half, I did learn storage, and at that point, I was able to continue in the flipping and continue to have the income, because storage it's a long game. You can make money right away, but honestly, like, depending on the seasons that you're in, it can take years for storage to become fruitful. So it's where I'm at, and flipping is something that I really enjoy doing. We have currently 2 houses on the market that we flipped. We have one that we're in the middle of a full renovation, and we're always looking for more. I'm not doing the marketing locally. In my brother's market, we have really interesting properties actually out there. We end up with a lot of acreage. So we bought a house that had like 30 something acres, and it was in Mississippi dollars and not like Baton Rouge dollars. And so we were able to buy this really nice house in a great area in his town. And it's something that we'll be able to wholesale. And so we've got in his market, we've got 2 flips that we've done. So we just started pretty recently in the Mississippi market, and we've got about 7 total, under contract, up for sale and flipped currently. So we did 1 wholesale in his market, and we bought 1 that we're wholesaling, which is that 30-acre property. So we bought it, we cleaned it up, had the pictures taken, and we just relisted it. It's actually under contract to sell now. And then 1 flip that we're doing a full renovation on, and 1 that was like, it's more like a wholesale. It needed a little bit of something to just finish it off. It wasn't a full renovation. $1,000 and a little bit of labor, and we did a little work in that one, and that one's up for sale now too. So.
Okay, thank you.
I know it's a long answer to answer
No, but
fourplexes or duplexes.
it actually answered a couple other questions that I had in mind, because I was going to ask, if flipping was to dry up, what would you do to compensate? But you're already doing that because you're invested in storage. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I suppose flipping could dry up, but I don't know about your market, how yours is. I know in the Baton Rouge area, like even with the interest rates going up, money's tighter, but people still don't want the fixer upper. Like for me to do a wholesale in Baton Rouge it's kind of risky for me to try to do a wholesale in Baton Rouge. People want fully renovated houses. Like that's what's selling. Like I can sell the wholesale, but it's going to take a little bit more time.
Okay.
But the flips are still moving quickly, and interest rates are high, and mortgages are high, but they're still moving. So
Yeah, it's the same thing here.
and there's no inventory. Y'all have inventory? Like there's not a lot of inventory available.
Very little inventory up here right now.
Yeah.
So things in the
That's how it is
suburbs
here.
are just selling like way over asking price. I was finding things out 2 days ago. I almost fell on the floor when they told me some of the prices that these people were paying, and they still didn't get it.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who else has questions, by the way? Take advantage of Bobby being here.
I was just curious, Bobby, what is your criteria for a good deal if you're looking to flip?
Hey, Diane. Yeah. So every market's different. I know for me, like our market in the Baton Rouge market, I'm looking to buy something, my first offers are typically, so I'll look at the what I think it's worth after it's repaired. So a great deal for me is, and this was when I was marketing and spending money, but a great deal for me would be if I knew what it was worth after it was fully renovated, I would multiply that at 65%. So I'd multiply it times 0.65, and then I would subtract out my repairs from that. And that's typically, I would start my offers at somewhere between 60 and 65% minus repairs. So that would be, really good, great deals for me in this market. And we've probably paid up to 70% minus the repairs. I don't know if that answers.
It does, yeah, thanks. Yeah.
I know some markets it's 80%, like people can go 80%. We can't do that in our market. The values of the houses just aren't high enough.
But Bobby,
Thanks.
are you taking into account, because I know up here, what I'm seeing some people doing, which I think is a mistake. I mean, they can do it. I never would. A lot of people are overpaying, so they're overpaying, hopefully hoping that they get it done in time so other people can overpay. Have you ever done that, or do you just stick to your guns and stick to your numbers and that's it?
Never overpay. No, and that's maybe why, I got, so in the Home Investors Organization, you have other people in your market that are part of the group. And then you have like councils outside of your market that, so I'm just sharing that because I had what they called an AD, which was somebody that would help, like they were there to coach you and counsel you and things like that. And so he would come in regularly and look at my deals and let me know, hey, you're leaving deals, you're leaving things on the table, you're leaving deals on the table. So I knew that, but at the same time, what I never wanted to do was start bringing my offer prices up where I'm getting more deals, which that's not a bad thing to get more deals, but I didn't want to not get the really good deals. And so, and what I think is that if you're in the habit of like just trying to create deals instead of, trying to make something a deal, I think you're going to end up with you know, getting yourselves in binds. And I've seen that with people in my market, people that I know well, that I would consistently have really good revenue numbers, and they would do more deals than me, and my revenue would be higher than them year after year after year. So I don't move my, I don't change my numbers.
Smart. I'm the same way.
Yeah. And we do that even like on the houses, like, you know, we did, you know, some houses that were 350, 400,000, 500,000. Like those spreads can get really big. And so you could really start, you know, you could start fudging and saying, well, you know, instead of looking at a percentage, you know, we'll just go off of maybe a profit number, you know, and you could do that if you've got a profit number that works for you. And if you can't get the deal done on a percentage basis, I could see where you would, like, rather than let a deal go, if you want to make, you know, 40 or 50 grand, then, you know, maybe you go off of that revenue number rather than a percentage. But it's just not something that I did regularly or practiced. I mean, you know, even on our big deals, like if it was a $500,000 deal, our profit was going to be over $100,000 at that point.
So you like to do like 20% profit?
So no, it was, well, I mean, it would be like 30, 35%.
Okay. Wow.
That was what we were shooting for. That was, you know, our initial offers were, you know, 30 to 35 to 40% profit was our initial offers. And we would go up, but typically it would be, if I'm not mistaken, it would be like, I'd typically buy it like 67%. So what would that be, like a 33% profit?
But on that 67%, does that also include holding costs if you borrow the money?
Yeah. You're not making all of that money.
Everything. All right.
Yeah.
So
I'm paying commissions out of that. I'm paying holding costs. I'm paying, you know, my money if I got private
all
lenders.
in.
You're paying all that. You don't make, yeah.
Wow. That's a fantastic return.
Yeah.
And if anybody has any questions, you know, feel free to put them in the chat too. I know some people are at work. That's the thing about the morning session. You know, some people still have the W-2. So if you have questions, put them in the chat. But, you know, I wrote down a number of questions, Bobby, when we were here talking. And I want to talk a little bit about networking and being involved. You said something about the relationships that you built. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. So in the very beginning, I didn't know anything about anything. So this is going back 6 years. This is before I joined Homevestors. I had a real estate meetup local to me, and I started attending that one. There was a second real estate meetup. I started attending that one. They were having breakfast. I didn't have a job, so they were having breakfast every Thursday morning. There was about 6 or so real estate investors, some landlords, some flippers that would meet up every Thursday. I went to every breakfast. Even if I just drank coffee, I didn't have any money, right? I would eat. Sometimes I would bring my coffee, and I would just sit and I would just network and start to meet the people in the market that were actually doing deals. That's where I met my mentor, Robert Leonard. He was so Bigger Pockets. I'm sure, you know, you guys have heard of that. I was on Bigger Pockets and I asked a question, and this guy, Robert Leonard, answered my question. And I'm like, oh, he's in my market. That was amazing. And then I went to one of the real estate meetups, and he was there. And he was like, to me, he was like a legend, because, you know, he was doing deals, and, you know, I didn't know anything about anything. And so, you know, being involved in those meetups, paying for coaching. I mean, I can't tell you how much I've paid for coaching. If you include home investors, it's astronomical. But if you take home investors out, you know, we've spent a lot of money with masterminds and coaching, just to, you know, you're always looking, you know, there's no silver bullet. And I know every time I go to another group or mastermind, I'm hoping to learn that one thing that's going to, you know, like the key to open up the rest of the success. The truth is that it's not out there. There's no silver bullet, or, you know, it's putting in the work. It's providing value to the marketplace, providing value to one another as other investors. And so that's been, you know, I've done a lot of deals, like people have a scarcity mindset, but I've done a lot of deals with other investors. So yeah, I can't say enough about the networking and communicating and just letting people know. That's another thing, like letting people know. We can all be showing up to these networking groups, but if you don't let people know what you're looking for, like, you could think, well, I'm at this real estate meetup, everybody knows I'm looking for a deal. And that may be true. Like, everybody's there trying to do something. But if you don't get out there and tell everybody what you want and what you're looking for, and it's just, you know, putting a face to a name, and like, you know, and then it like, it rings up. Oh, like, I've had Scott call me on stuff. Hey, I thought about you, Bobby. I know you're in that market. And well, yeah, that's just networking and doing what you say you're going to do, and providing value as much as, you know, extracting as much as you want to extract. You also have to, you know, be able to give it out. And everybody's in that. And that's one thing that's neat, is that we all come from different experiences and different backgrounds. And, you know, it's easy to think like, you know, and you guys, you know, none of you guys may be new in the business, but it's easy to think that, like, I don't know anything about this business. There's nothing, no value I can provide. But it's not true. We've all come from such diverse and different backgrounds and different experiences. And you'd be amazed if you just listen to what people need. You probably have something that you could help them with. So just being out there and open and being willing to give back.
Cool. So, you know, first you got to show up, but then you have to participate too. You know, that's the thing. People are like, I'm going to all these meetings. Yeah, but you got to participate. You know, and that's what I heard Bobby saying, is you got to let people know what you're looking for and what you're doing. Yeah, it's uncomfortable. I mean, I know for, you know, people think even for me, it's easy, and yeah, it's not. You know, sometimes you just kind of want to sit in the back corner and just kind of say, well, I'm here, you know. But, you know, reach out, because there's a lot of other people feel the way you do. You know, you just kind of want to sit there in a corner and not be a bother to anybody, but you'd be surprised once you reach out to somebody and just, yeah, ask them a simple question, you know, hey, what brings you here? And that's what we really try to encourage in FFREIA. It is one thing that I miss. That's why I'm glad I'm able to go to REIAs and other places. So for me, every time I go to a REIA meeting in another location, it's a whole new meeting for me. So I have to get to know everybody again. But in Rochester, I mean, next week, Thursday, there's going to be over 100 people there, you know, and if you can't, you know, meet somebody, that's on you. You know, just reach out, you know, just, hey, you know, what brings you here tonight? And that's the thing. I was glad to hear Bobby talk about that with networking. You know, I have some other questions too, but if somebody's got something, I want, you know, I don't want you to be shy. I want you to bring them up. You know, this is a one time with, go.
I got a quick question. Bobby, where are you finding like most of your deals for like your flips and stuff?
Hey, yeah, most of my deals locally now in my market are coming from either wholesalers or realtors at this point. Friends, like at this point, you know, a lot of people know that I'm a buyer, and so that's something that I didn't expect to happen. It's not something I realized would happen. When I quit marketing, I thought that was the end. I had about 7 houses left to flip, and I thought that would probably be the end of it. But as I was getting close to the end of those flips, I had one realtor come to me that, you know, somebody in, we play softball, the girls play softball. So it was a guy whose daughter was on the same team as my daughter. And we just having conversations. He's a realtor. I'm a flipper. And I told him, I said, hey, if you ever come across a deal, let me know. He said, oh, I won't come across anything for you, because if I come across a good deal, I buy it myself. And I'm like, well, that's great. And so he calls me up. He's like, hey, I got a deal. And I'm like, okay, I thought you were going to flip it. He says, well, it's not. He said, he says it's not close enough to a Home Depot. And it was, like the way Baton Rouge is, it's pretty sprawled out. So it was like an hour away from where he lives. And so it was just too far away. Well, it was literally 3 minutes from my house. And so that's a deal that we bought from a realtor. First time I bought from a realtor. I didn't even buy my personal home from a realtor. So that's the first time I bought from a realtor was that. And then, shortly after that, a guy that sells most all of my flips, he knows I'm looking, and he's like, hey, I got this deal. I'm not going to be able to close on it because he'll do flips as well. So he brought me a deal. And then the other home investors, people in my market that are still in my market, they still wholesale deals from time to time. Well, I just keep chirping in people's ears. I call people up, just like Scott's talking about with communicating and networking with people. I'll just call them up and ask them, hey, how's business going? What's going on? How are you doing? And then just remind them, hey, I'm still buying, So that's how I'm finding my deals currently locally in my market. In my brother's market, we're sending mail. We're sending probably, I don't know, maybe 3,000 pieces of mail, 2,500 pieces of mail a month. And we're doing, pay-per-click marketing as well. So that's how we're finding deals, and word of mouth. My brother's, I'm the reserved, shy brother, and my brother's like really outgoing, and he knows, like, he doesn't know any strangers. And so he's doing a lot with word of mouth. So.
Nice. And then when you first started, and obviously you didn't have the money to buy these flips, were you just using private lenders, or where were you kind of getting the money for that?
So the first 5 deals I wholesaled, so I didn't bring any money to the table at all. I found a buyer, and we did what's called a double close, where we closed on it, and we closed on it with the end buyer's money at the title company. I don't know if every state allows it, but it was allowed where we are. And so the first 5 deals before I had any money, that's how I did them. And then after that, it was people started seeing what I was doing, and you'd be surprised how many people have money to lend. And so I ended up with 2 private lenders, and that's all I ever used was 2 private lenders. And then at that point, I had some cash in my line of credit that was freed back up.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
One thing I want to share. To me, it was an amazing strategy that I thought everybody knew. And a lot of you probably understand the concept, but what I would do is I would get a house under contract, and I would buy them cash. And so whether it was my cash at the time or a private lender's cash, I would buy them cash. And then while I'm under contract to buy them, I would reach out to my local bank. I had 2 local banks that I dealt with regularly, and I would get them to refinance the property. So I would let them know, hey, I don't own it yet, but I'm in about 2 weeks, I will own the property. And so they'll start the process of the refi. And so I end up, let's say I buy it cash for $50,000. They come out before I ever bought the house. They did the appraisal on it, not for me to buy it, but for them to refinance it. And then they would give me all the money back that I purchased it cash for, and they would give me 80% of the after repaired value. And so I would end up with all the repair money, all my cash back, and really available funds. Like, if they gave me up to 80%, that's more money than I need to repair it. So I would have some extra cash. And what I would do with the extra cash is I'd pay the note. And so I'd literally take their line of credit and pay the loan with the line of credit money. I would do my repair with the line of credit money, and I paid my cash back either to me or to my investor with that line of credit money. And typically you're dealing with, that line of credit is, at the time it was, 5 or 6% versus private money at the time might have been, 8 or 9%. Now that loan is probably 7%, and private money is, maybe 10 or 11%. So you could pay that private money off quickly, or put your cash back quickly so that you could do the next deal. So that's, to me, was an amazing strategy where it was like I could just buy as many houses as I wanted, as long a leash as the bank would give me. So.
Cool. And, it's what we say over and over again in real estate. If you find a deal, you're going to find the money. And I know there's a number of people on this call that will attest to that. But that's the biggest thing is you gotta find something that's a deal. I as an investor, I want to make sure my money's safe. So if it's a deal, if I'm gonna put my money into it, that's what I want to do. And I'm sure you probably found that too over the years, Bobby. If maybe you're a little short on cash, you can't buy it with your own cash. If you find the right deal, you got people that can bring you the money, right?
Sure did. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
And that's also goes back to the, networking and letting people know what you're doing, and, finding out, because you're solving somebody else's problem. Could be somebody's got money that they're trying to put to work, so that's a problem that people are dealing with, where to put their money. And, I would just, so it depends on what what group you're networking with. Like if you're networking with investors, well, that are finding deals, well, then maybe what you tell people you're looking for is you're looking for a house to flip. If you're networking with people that have some cash, or that you think may have some cash, you can always approach it like, hey, look, I don't know if you know anybody that this would be helpful to, but we help ordinary investors make extraordinary returns with, like, where I'm at, like with safe Louisiana protected real estate. And so and then they'll like, well, explain that to me. And so you just share with them that that they'll get first lien position on valuable Louisiana real estate or valuable New York real estate for a good rate of return. And the stock market returns are kind of crazy, and the banks are paying pretty high right now, but not as much as they could make with a real estate transaction. And if you can show you're competent and that they're protected with a first lien position, I've never had an issue with having money for a deal. And I shared that story in the very beginning. Like I didn't know, I just didn't know that somebody would do that, or who I would even ask, or I hadn't done the work, I hadn't done the networking at that point in time. And so I was out there trying to do a deal, not having the cash to do it, not having done the legwork, the networking work to see if there was any interest, But if you find people at these real estate REIAs, I mean, there's going to be people with money, more than likely IRA money. Or Scott I'm sure he's shared with you guys how that works. But there's a lot of people that have money tied up in IRAs that they can't really do anything with. That if you could help them, show them how to unlock it and invest it in something that they could make 10 or 11% return, it would be valuable to them. You'd be helping them with a problem that they're having.
Cool. Anybody else have questions? I still have
Yeah.
a list of questions, but go ahead. There you go. Good.
Hey, Bobby, thank you for coming on to the meeting today. I appreciate it and coming with us. I do have a question in regards in terms of marketing when you first started. I know that there's similarities between wholesaling and flipping, but when you first started, you reaching out to off-market properties. Could you maybe get into what whether it be cold calling or mailing, it doesn't matter, but to find those properties, what kind of list stacking did you do as far as your criteria to find those properties to begin your marketing into that? Was it triple stacking, double stacking? Could you maybe get into that?
When I started, they wasn't really talking about stacking. What we were looking for was whether it was out-of-state landlords or landlords in general. We looked for houses that had equity. So maybe so we would float around with different equity stacks just because some people will bring money to the table. But we would do unknown equity. We would do and so we wouldn't necessarily stack them in that sense, like where we're trying to niche down. Like we weren't trying to get a small list. We weren't stacking lists to get a small list to compound, like to try to get, like we were just broadcast. I mean, we were just like shotgun. We're just broadcasting. So we just sent a lot of mail. So I don't know if that answers the question, but any that people talk about all the different lists today. You're looking for people that have some equity. Sometimes we would look for them to own their home for maybe 10 years or longer or something like that. We didn't get into, we would try to do some probates, things like that. Those are, sometimes that's harder to find or more expensive to find, but we would, equity, ownership length, and I mean, we sent a lot of mail. I don't know.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah. I think with a limited budget, I think stacking is a great idea.
Does that answer your question, Gabe? Do you have another question?
Yeah, that I think that answers the question that I was hoping for.
And that's a good question. Actually, we have a couple of, I'm going to say, self-storage grinders on the phone. We have Gabe. He grinds the phone out. I mean, he's found some deals. Actually, that one by you, Bobby, that didn't come together, unfortunately. But Gabe was the one to find that, and he's still grinding it out, finding some things. And we got Mike Perkins on here too.
The one that was north of Zachary.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Which
Yeah.
one was that? Was that the one with the flood zone, Scott?
No, the one that the guy who's going through the divorce.
Oh,
and,
Wesley.
Yeah, Wesley,
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah,
that's right up near Bobby.
Yeah, I looked at that one. I wanted to buy it.
Sorry, dude. It was my fault.
No, it wasn't your fault. It just kind of, just didn't work out. His circumstances changed, Wesley's, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And and that's the thing, when you're flipping houses, you got to constantly be marketing. It's just like wholesaling. And that's a good thing about this real estate business is, you're flipping, you're going along, you're doing things, but sometimes you just need to wholesale things out. And if you find a deal, that's what I said before, find a deal, you'll find the money. And if it's a good enough deal, you could put 20 grand. I heard Bobby mention 40 grand, $40,000 on top of it, and just wholesale it out. You have to do the work. That's the thing. We can't, none of us have the answer other than just doing the work. And we say doing the work. What do? You just grind it. And Gabe has a saying, I can't say it on here, but to do deals, you got to have a phone, and you got to have guts. I'll use that term. You just need to grind it out. And there's days that suck. I mean, we all know that. You know, Mike Perkins, he's another grinder on here. You know, he's just grinding out, finding storage deals. And you know, there's days that just suck. And Bobby, tell us about, if you don't mind, you know, be realistic for a minute. There's days that suck, right? How do you deal with those days that suck? And I'm going to say the loneliness of this too, because you know, we're not going to an office, you know, we can't stand around the water cooler with 20 other people and oh, woe is me. But how do you deal with those things, Bobby?
It's funny because my wife doesn't get it. Like she's like, we're together all the time. I'm like, yeah, we are, but like I still want to have these discussions, and she doesn't want to have them. But no, it's good to have that. You know, I go back to that network because you know, we reach out. I have people reach out to me, and you know, they tell me like in storage, like, you know, what happened with their tenant. They threw their tenants stuff away. They thought it was an auction, but the tenant was actually paid up. And like, what do we do? How do we fix it? Like that's a rough day in the storage business when you throw somebody's stuff away that was current paying tenant. That's a rough day. In the flip business, I can share my most recent flip story. We're doing it's about 100-year-old house. Most of our houses aren't that old that we do. We're probably 40-year-old houses mostly, maybe 50-year-old houses. But we're doing an older part of Baton Rouge, and the house looked really good from the outside. This is a house that I've been working on for probably 4 years to buy. So the follow-up game, right? So we finally buy the house. We start doing renovations on it. The first sign that, so 4 years, a lot can change with a house. The house has been vacant the whole time. So the appraiser comes in, because I'm doing the method that I told you, where I refinance it with the bank. The appraiser comes in. He's like, is this a tear down? I'm like, no, we're doing a rehab. He said, are you serious? I said, yeah. He says, I've never seen somebody rehab a house this bad. And I said, well, we're going to do it. And so anyway, I'm like, I don't know what he's talking about. This house isn't that bad. So the contractor comes in. We start, so all the walls are plaster instead of sheetrock, right? So we're not going to patch plaster. It's going to re-crack or whatever, you know. So contractor's taking all the plaster out. And then so he's taking all the plaster out. The wood is so hard, it's like petrified wood. It needs a new roof, so we start taking the roof off. Well, it's all like, I've never seen anything like it. It's so hard you can't put a nail in it anymore. So they start taking the roof off, and literally the house, they're taking the roof off. It's falling apart. They're putting new roof as they go. So they're literally changing rafters, like everything. Like it looks like a new construction. When you walk in the house, it's all new wood now. But they got about halfway of doing that, and the whole middle of the house imploded. Like it just, and I'm like, I called the contractor. I'm like, do we even have a house to rehab? What are we doing?
Wow.
He started laughing. We take everything really lightly, but you know, like I always tell people, there's no problems. We just only have solutions. So what's the solution? What do we work on? So for me, you know, something that Scott shared with you guys, like the hard days that suck. For me, it's just faith. I just know that the Lord's it's gonna be good. And so, but it is nice to have people to talk to. And so I think that's where the network comes in, just being able to reach out and talk to people and share with them, laugh about what's happening, because it's either going to laugh or cry. So I just assume laugh. So
Nice.
Looks like a brand new house now, though.
That's a heck of a story, Bobby.
Oh man, the whole air conditioning, like the air conditioner was up on that, you know, upstairs, like all of it was on the ground. It was just like the whole roof, middle of the house collapsed.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow. We have nothing to complain about compared to that story. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And thanks for bringing that up too, Bobby, because, it's not all peaches and cream out there. It's not
Yeah.
easy. There's things like this that are going to happen, and you just have to work your way through them. It's, they say enjoy the suck. Now he's got a beautiful house, but boy, when you're into it, some you just shake your head sometimes, like, man, I'm about ready to give up on this thing, and you just can't. You have to press forward. What we do have some newer people on this call, and like, what words of advice can you offer a new person? Either they're, I guess, too shy, or just feel way too nervous to make that first call, that first offer. What words of advice can you give somebody who's brand new, who's maybe not done their first deal or that? So
Yeah, the biggest thing is just doing the work, because nothing is going to come if you don't get out there and start. So you got to start. It's like you got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And so, for me, I'm like I shared with you guys that I'm pretty shy around people that I don't know. And so for me, like even going to like answer a phone call and set an appointment, like for me, that was hard. And so what I did was I hired it out. So, not everybody can do that. I don't even know that I could do that when I did it. I didn't I didn't have a job. Everything was mortgaged. My credit cards were up, but I knew that I needed to get out of my own way. And, it's really easy to like, for me to answer a phone call and maybe disqualify and say, oh no, they're not really motivated, so I'm not going to even go make an offer, or, so what I did was I had somebody, like I was sending the mail, I'm spending the money, I'm sending mail, we're doing marketing. I had somebody answer the calls and book appointments, and they, their job was to book appointments, not try to figure out if it was a deal or not. And so when I got the lead, it was on my calendar as an appointment. And so I just, so I knew I had to get myself in a position where I was not involved with, making decisions on the front end, and just get me in front of the person. And so, for me, that was really helpful, is, you just got to get out of your own way and get out of your own thoughts, and just take action. I'm sure y'all heard that before. You just have to take action, and just consistent action. And sometimes, like, I'm 6 years into it. After 3 years into it, we started doing storage. So I'm 4 years into it at that point in time, and we're closing on our first storage deal. Well, we closed on our first storage deal in August of 20, maybe 21. I closed on the second one in September, and I closed on the third one in October. And I looked at my wife and I'm like, it doesn't seem like I'm doing that much. But when you look at the consistency of what you're doing over time, it doesn't have to be like, you can grind it out. Like there's a time for that, but like just doing those consistent things over and over again, like they compound, and it adds up over time. And so that's what I would say is just, you got to do the work and you got to be consistent. You don't have to kill yourself doing it, but you have to do it consistently. And I think that's where the fruit comes.
nice. Thanks for offering that. Yeah, so it's that consistency, hey, I'm going to make one phone call today. Sometimes that's all you need to do. I'm going to make one phone call to a prospective client. This is a long game. you know, life is long, you know, life is short too. Trust me. You know, it's before we know it, you know, but you know, you're into this for the long game. Just start building relationships, talking to people. Joe, I'm going to ask you, when you're doing a deal, you always say there's two things that happen. It's not a deal now, but what are the two things that happen? I know I didn't prep you for this, but
DNC, time and circumstances changes everybody.
talk a little bit about that, Joe, this being a long game.
Like Bobby, you were working on that house for 4 years. Okay. And at that time, for that person, maybe the circumstances or, you know, maybe the price wasn't right for them. And then eventually after 4 years, the price did become right. Because obviously their situation changed or times have changed. Or some people like, well, you know what, I'm going to retire in 5 years. I'll do it in 5 years. That's when time changes. Circumstances changes, like, and just like, you know, you, Scott, Bobby, you know, Mike Perkins and Gabe, you guys are talking to people. And the same thing in real estate. We talk to people. I know Barrington's gone through it 1,000 times. We'll call people like, no, you know what, I'm not ready to sell. Next thing you know, a divorce happens, a death happens, something financially happens, things change at the drop of a hat. Time and circumstances change. We just don't know when. And that is also the key to follow up, you know, and I'm sure all of you, especially doing storage, like you guys are just talking about that one in Louisiana where the guy was going through a divorce. I mean, I don't know the whole circumstances, but I assume he needed to sell it because of the divorce. And, you know, that was circumstances, you know, and some of the people we run into, they're like, okay, you know what? I've had these places for 20, 30 years. It's time. TNC, time and circumstances. That's what I tell everybody. Did that answer your question, Scott?
It does, and I'll ask another question to that too, Joe. Has there ever been a time where you knew you should have followed up on a lead, and because time and circumstances for you changed and you didn't follow up on the lead, and then when you did follow up on the lead, you found out that their time and circumstance changed and they didn't call you first? You ever had that happen to you?
More
I see
times,
Barrington nodding his head.
more times than you can possibly imagine. You want to see somebody cry? That's made all of us cry. That's painful. Even just thinking about it, I need therapy for it. And the thing about it is that drives us crazier than we focus more on the deals that we don't get than we do on the deals that we actually have in hand, because that just drives us crazy. You know, and I'm sure there's other people on here that can actually attest to that. I would assume.
I see the legend Barrington shaking his head. Barrington, you want to give us an example of one that, you know, happened?
Yeah, this happens kind of often. Deals I didn't follow up on. I look online and I see that someone else has bought them. But yeah, time changes circumstances. The gold is in the follow-up. The gold is in the follow-up. You're probably going to get a no the first time, second time, the third time. Keep calling, keep texting, build a relationship, have those conversations and stuff. Most of the properties that I own were all from following up. I rarely get a yes on the first phone call or the first conversation, but the majority of my portfolio is from following up. So
Awesome.
I don't get discouraged when I get a no. I hear no every day. I get no's every day. That doesn't discourage me at all whatsoever. As long as the conversation goes well and I end it off on a good note, that's a win for me. And then, you know, I just stay in contact and always let them know, you know, if you ever need anything, any advice or referrals or things of that nature, feel free to reach out to me, even if you don't sell it to me. If you want a contractor referral or a real estate agent, by all means, I'm available. So that's helped me out tremendously throughout the years.
Yeah, I want to add to that too, like what Barrington was saying. Um, for the new people and even for some that have been in the business for a long time, you got to realize that, and this is something that I was taught, something that I learned early on in the business, is it's not about you. And is the sooner you can take you out of the equation and your money and your profit and like your needs, as soon as you can take you out of the equation, you're gonna be way more successful. And so I say it to people all the time. It's not about you. It's not about the house. Like, that's another thing. Get off the house. It's not about the house. I know you're trying to buy the house and I know you're trying to make a profit, right? Those are the givens. We know those are some constants, but you can't go into these deals thinking about your profit and the condition of the house. Like, it's not about you. It's not about the house. It's about the person. It's about what they have going on. And if you can, like, you're there, who is going to sell a house at a discount? Like, that's what you're asking people to do. And so they're not going to sell a house at a discount or a storage at a discount or anything at a discount unless you can solve their problem. And how are you going to solve their problem if you're in there with your own problem? If you're in there with you trying to make money, if you're in there with you, trying to tell them how terrible the house is, like, you're not, like, that's not the way. The way is, honestly, I don't, like, at this point, when I walk through a house, I see what I need to see. Like, I don't have to nitpick it. And every once in a while, I may touch something on a wall or something as I walk through and talk to them, but I'm not talking to them about their house. If they're sitting in the middle of the room and it's full of dog mess, I'm sitting in the middle of the room with them in the dog mess. Like, I'm there for whatever you need me to be there for. And I don't talk much. I ask them questions. I let them talk. And a lot of times you'll be in an appointment. At least for me, my appointments were long. It'd be an hour and a half or 2 hours long. And we'd get finished the appointment and the people would be like, wow, I had such a great time talking to you. And I'm like, well, I didn't do any talking. I just let them talk. And what we got to realize is that people today, probably forever, people are selfish. Like, people are selfish, and everybody wants to tell you their story, and nobody wants to hear people's stories. Everybody wants to tell their own story. And so if you can go and sit with people and just be there and listen and ask, now you still need to ask questions to get to find what their problems are, to provide a solution. So you have to ask good questions to find what their pain or what their pleasure, what they're looking for, where they're trying to go. Like, you have to bring that stuff out, but you don't bring it out by talking a whole lot. You don't bring it out by telling them how bad the house is. You bring it out by asking them questions and shutting up and just letting them share and encouraging them to go deeper. Like, that's a really important thing. And as you go through that process with people, it's like a sales process, but as you go through that process, they don't realize, like, you have to, I've heard it shared like this. And the way I've shared it is, like, you have to become like a detective, or you have to be like a doctor. And so you think about if the patient shows up, and this is the homeowner, right? The seller of the house, and they show up to the doctor's office, and as soon as they show up in the office, the doctor says, hey, I know what you need. You need a cash sale, and you need this and you need that. And they're like, well, I didn't even tell you what was hurting. Like, I didn't even tell you what my pain was. You have no idea. And so is that patient going to trust that doctor? Or is that patient going to be like, this is a whack. This guy's a whack. But if they go into that same doctor's office, and the doctor asks them, hey, tell me about what's going on. What have you been feeling? How has that felt? How does that make you feel that this is that way? Like, if you start asking them questions to let them share, well, then after you've done that, then you can say, hey, look, this might be a good solution for you here. And if this isn't, then maybe this is. So then you're on their side, you're trying to help them out. And I just go back to it. It's not about you. It's not about the house. It's about that person.
Cool. Thanks. We end these at like 8:30. Joe and I usually hang out for a little bit longer, an extra 10 minutes or so. But Bobby, for those people who gotta leave at 8:30, would you mind letting them know or putting in the chat, if you're open to it, how they might be able to get a hold of you if they want to ask you some questions, or if they have a deal in Louisiana that they might just want to unload? What would be the best way for them to get a hold of you, if you don't mind?
Yeah, I'm gonna put my number in the chat and just text and let me know who you are, because I get a lot of texts and I just don't respond to them. So just put in there.
Cool. There you go.
Got it?
Yep, got it. Thanks. I appreciate you doing that,
Yeah,
Bobby.
y'all
And
can reach out.
Yeah, it's a big ask, and it's the same thing. Bobby bought a lot of value. We really appreciate you taking the time to come on here, Bobby. In an hour and a half, you probably could have found 3 other deals. But we appreciate you joining us today and, bringing those nuggets of, and you never know, what effect you're going to have on people. So we really appreciate that. The thing I like about Bobby is we've been in some masterminds together and some hot seats too. What a hot seat is, if nobody's ever done it, if you haven't done it, I highly suggest you find a good group that does those. But you have like an hour to talk kind of about yourself and what problems you may have. And then, it's up to you how personally you want to get on the problems or something like that. But like in 5-10 minutes, talk about it. What's your problem? What can we help you with? And Bobby is one of the best. He's the hardest, but one of the best people to sit across from in that hot seat, because Bobby's going to ask you the tough questions. He's not going to throw you any softballs. And, if you got some issues you're trying to work through, Bobby's awesome because he has a way to ask you a question. It's it's almost like a throat punch, but it's also like, hey, is it really a problem? And that's what Bobby's the best at. Like I said earlier, he and I have had some, I'm going to say pretty deep spiritual conversations about, some of the struggles I go through with that. And Bobby's great at that. But Bobby's also, he's a parent too. And, he knows about parenting and how to raise kids right. He's been married for a good long time with Christy, so he brings a ton of value, and that's why I appreciate him taking the time to come on here. And Bobby is somebody I definitely look up to. He and I've had conversations on the phone, and we've met in person. We're in the Storage Rebellion group together too. But I really appreciate him taking the time to come on today. So,
yeah, thank you guys. Really appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that, Bobby.
Yeah. If you want to hang out for a few more minutes, Bobby, it's up to you, but I'll respect your time too. If I said we go till 10:30 Eastern time. Yeah. I'm 8:30 right now, Denver time, but
yeah, 9:30 my time.
There you go.
That's good.
But yeah, if anybody has any other questions or anything like that, we'll hang out for a bit. If you got to go, we understand. But thanks everybody for taking time out to join today. And if I were in Rochester next week, Thursday night, I know where I'd be. I'd be at Eagle Vale. I'd be there at 5:30 for networking, and bring business cards. It's kind of a lost art nowadays. Because you're going to go there, you're going to meet somebody and they're like, yeah, let's follow up with each other. And you walk out, you don't even have each other's phone numbers. I know business cards may be old school, but I'll tell you what, I have more people follow up with me because I do have business cards, and they're simple business cards. You can get them at Office Max for $9.99. You get like 500 of them. So, but yeah, if you're in Rochester, definitely go to that meeting next week. Bring friends. FFREIA is a paid membership, but I think, Andy, what is it now? $179 a person or something like that?
No, we jumped it. I think it's 200 or 209 or something like
Okay.
that a year now, or 219 a year. But
19.
it's still pennies compared to, the fact that it was locked at that, what was it, 169 for 11 years.
There you
Yeah.
go.
And it covers your food, right? If
Yeah.
nothing else, if you consider that what you're going to spend just going out and networking and doing whatever, if you get pizza, salads, all that other stuff, at least you're getting that. But the group adds so much more value just from a networking and business relationship perspective that there really isn't a price tag that you could charge for the value you can take out of it. But you got to put the work in, right? There's nothing free about it. You got to show up and you got to, put your best foot forward, and you have to participate and then follow up. It's, networking is great and it's good to have a big book, but if you don't use it, what good is it? It's not working for you.
Kidding.
Yeah, that's less than $20 a month. I mean, I know people go out to lunch every day and they spend $20 on lunch. You're going to come to this thing, you're going to get, at the meetups, you're going to, it's free food. So it's like going out to dinner almost with 100 other friends. We have the holiday party around Christmas time. That's free food networking. I'm pretty sure we're still going to do the picnics in the summer. So for $200, man, it's a worthwhile investment. It's, I'm remote, but I'm involved. It's kind of a give back for me, but every time I come on, I learn something. I know there's people today that didn't come on because they said, I'm not flipping houses, I don't need to come on. And, they missed out, unfortunately, because we talked about marketing, we talked about wholesaling, we talked about business, we talked about personal things too. And that's the thing. If you can, you don't want to miss these meetings because, if you pick up just one thing from them, it makes a difference. I mean, the where you can go from there is just, tenfold. That's all I got, unless I'm going to open this up. Anybody has questions? I will say one thing. I'll ask Andy the question too. Andy's like, I call him the Wizard of Oz. He's the man behind the curtain. He doesn't say a lot, but when he says something, it's a lot. Andy, do you want to talk about a deal that maybe you didn't quite follow up like you should have, and all of a sudden they went to a competitor or something like that? Do you want to talk about? Are you willing to talk about one of your? I guess.
There's plenty of them, right? I mean, even back when I was working at Depot, actually selling products, there was always somebody demanding attention, somebody demanding time, and there was never enough time to get around to everything, right? So, a lot of it comes down to having processes and systems in place so you don't miss that. But for people who are less, let's say, tech savvy, that don't have a calendar reminding them of everything they need to do every day, like I do now, it's super easy to just get busy and just not follow up, right? And then by the time you need it, it's not there, right? You go to, hey, we were going to start this project, blah blah blah. Oh yeah, well we're already done with that, or we're not doing that now, or we've moved on, or we're skipping past that. It happens all the time to people, and it's not, again, time and circumstances like you guys talked about, but it's not always just time and circumstances. Sometimes it's just because you didn't show up. The average sale, if you're talking sales, the average sale doesn't happen until somewhere between the 11th and the 15th contact.
Wow.
So if you do that, right, and that's just for straight up sales, building materials, software, all that crap. It's between 11 and 15. That's where your 50 to 60% of the sales actually close. Now, they don't know you. They don't know your face. They don't know what you're doing. They don't know what you've got. They don't know what you're offering. You're not top of mind. They're going to go somewhere else. And it doesn't have to be like a face-to-face hour-long conversation every time. But for the love of God, don't send the email. It's like just checking in, because those go right in the shit can. Nobody wants to read those. So
Good.
Cool. All right. Does anybody else have any questions?
It's funny that you guys talk about the power of the follow-up and sticking with it,
did Gabe just get kicked?
I think he froze.
I think Zoom is having issues. We're losing a bunch of people all at once. Everybody froze.
in New Mexico. So, huh? Uh-oh.
I think that was actually a Zoom issue. That wasn't you. Like everybody
Yeah, I think
locked up all at once.
something happened to my connection. Wow, internet connection, Steve. But there's this lady in New Mexico I've been dealing with since 2022. And she says, she always tells me, I call every month. And she says, don't give up on me. I'm going to sell to you one day. I called her last month. I'm going to call her this month and the next month. She has, she's taking care of her grandkids now. And she's an hour away. She's like, I'm not sure how much longer I can do this, but don't give up on me. And I tell her, don't worry, I won't. She says, because if you do, I'm going to sell to somebody else. I'm like, no, you're not. No, you're not. You're going to sell to me because we have a good relationship. I've dealt with you for 2 years. And one day that facility will be mine. She says, I know, but I don't want to sell today, but keep calling me. And that's the relationship building. And it is a long game, but you know what? If I can make, just one facility, one person want to get rid of their worries because they want to retire and they want to move on with their grandkids, that's worth it to me. That's the value, And so that's why, the advice again is just don't give up. It sucks balls, but you know what? It in the end, if I can get that one sale, well, I'm sorry, not one sale, but that one person to sign the agreement, man, it's a good day, and Scott, we're not going to give it to Nick Paul. We're going to give it to somebody else, but it's in New Mexico. So, but one day it'll be ours. So that's good stuff. Don't give up. Just don't.
I want to follow up on what Andy said. It takes 11 to 15 times to build a relationship for contact as far as sales. And that was really good to hear because in my mind, I always thought it took, 7 to 8 contacts. And a lot of times, I would reach out to property owners 7 to 8 times or more with no luck. But now I know that, possibly have to go up to 15 contacts to build that relationship and to get that property under contract. So I just appreciate that information.
Cool.
Hey, Scott. I don't know if I should talk to you individually, or I have a question about partnering with your IRA, like with your normal funds. Like, how do you do that? Like, I have something under contract and I thought I had all the funds in my Roth IRA, but I don't have enough. So how do I change that midstream?
Are you by chance, who are you using for your self-directed IRA?
Equity Trust.
Okay, I'm going to send you a contact. You can give him a call.
Okay.
He might be traveling. It's John Bowens. I'm going to send you his contact information. He can tell you how to do that, the best way to do that, because everybody's situation is a little different.
Okay.
But I did that. I used IRA funds and I used my personal funds to purchase a property, and it was a 50-50. And anytime I put money out, it had to come 50% from the IRA, 50% from myself. And then when I paid it back, I had to pay it back in equal ways. But there's definitely a way to do it. You just have to title it right. And John can kind of walk you through the steps of doing that. Attorney wise, do you by chance use Steve Peterson as your attorney?
I usually do, but the person who's selling it was using him. So I went to John, why am I forgetting his last name? Yeah, it's gone. But
yeah,
Marcioni.
There we go.
Marcioni, okay. He's probably familiar with it too. Steve definitely is, so that'll work out well. Because Steve will understand it. But yeah, it's just titling. I say just titling, but you have to
Then
make
can
sure
you
it's worded
ever
up right.
So then you have to buy it out. Like, how can you get it back entirely into your Roth? You have to.
You can't.
You can't.
Yeah, you're right. You can't. You can if your Roth IRA is putting up 75%, you can do it that way. And then if you had the cash yourself, great. Or your IRA could do 75%, and you bring in another investor and the other investor gets 25%, or you could write it up that you found it and all that. So your IRA is getting 90%. They're putting up 25% of the money, but they get 10% of the equity. That's some, strategic type thinking things. And that's something where John can definitely help you. Like I said, I think he's traveling. So if you call him and he doesn't call you back, he'll probably call you back beginning of next week.
Okay, I will
Okay.
text you then, and you can send me his number.
You got it.
Thank
Yep.
you, appreciate it.
You bet. Okay. What we're going to do, I'll let Joe close this out because Joe always has a saying at the end that he says. So, but Bobby, thank you again for joining us. That was awesome. I'm glad you're able to
Thank
do
you,
this.
Bobby.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's give everybody,
Yeah.
either through
Thank
chat
you,
or
Bobby.
there you go.
Yeah.
Good.
Thank you, Bobby.
Thanks, Bobby. We appreciate it. We
Yeah,
appreciate
appreciate
it.
you guys.
And we'll see everybody next Thursday night. Check it out and go do real estate. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks,
You
Bobby.
guys, thank you.
Thanks.